played d4. I haven't played a ton of d4. Queen's Gambit, Chobava London. We do have some options here, huh? We do have some options. I've played a little bit of the London, but I don't think I've played specifically the Chobava London, so the opportunity presents itself here. We could definitely do that. I'll be honest, I've played the London a lot. I don't really play knight c3 very much. It's not the main stuff for me. Even here, my instinct is definitely not to play the Chobava London with knight c3. It could work out, of course, but it feels a little bit worse against this particular setup. Because I mean, yeah, black might just go bishop d6. So I actually don't think I'm gonna play knight c3 here. Doesn't really seem as good as it could be. So let's just play a London with e3. It's just that the move e6 to me, like if black played bishop f5, I'd be very interested in playing this. Because then, as you guys might know, the Chobava London works really well against the bishop on f5. You play g4 and you get these really nice positions. But when I see e6 and I know the bishop's not coming out, I'm much more interested in playing a regular London here, because that bishop is not going to be very strong. So knight d2 and knight f3 are the next couple moves. c3, bishop d3, and definitely when I see this, it's a no-brainer. c3 just quite literally automatic. It's not that I'm scared of this, but I want this structure anyway, so of course c3 is just a huge tempo for me. And if he had just played bishop there anyway, my pawn would be here, right? So this is just obviously an achievement for me. Bishop to d6, again, that doesn't really bother me. So I'm gonna leave the bishop there. I can go knight f3, but bishop d3, just to stop knight e4 is a little bit tempting. So I am gonna do this, stop that, and bishop takes, we're happy to take back. Castles. Now we definitely want the knight to come out to f3. Again, this is completely fine for us. And the reason why I chose the, let's call it regular, traditional London instead of the Chobava London is mainly because I saw this bishop was not going to be developed. So I think the London is pretty nice when this bishop stays home. Like has to go to b7, for example. And taking here only gives me control over e5, which is really comfy. Plus, he doesn't quite have knight e4 yet, so. Exactly, Crocodile. That's actually 100% the same idea, using these pieces to stop the knight from going to e4. So knight g4, it's like, if you actually think to yourself what black is intending by this, what answers do you come up with? Honestly, what do you guys think my opponent is up to here? Like, are they trying to play f5? Are they trying to play e5 and support it in a weird way? Are they trying to like take on f2? What do we think knight g4 is all about? Because it's definitely a very bad move. If I play h3, the best move is to simply return. So it's definitely not a good move, and oftentimes I will see people play moves like this, and I just like, what are we doing, right? After h3, the knight simply has to retreat, and knight h6 is just very bad. So there's a few things. After knight here, I know h3 is in my back pocket as a great move to just force the knight to go back, so that's, if I don't see anything else, I'm going to play h3. But as soon as I see this, I'm thinking about bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight g5 check, king, we can only assume g8, queen takes g4, and, you know, I want to get my queen out somewhere to threaten mate. Even though there's e5 in that position to hit my queen and my bishop, I think I can go threaten mate somewhere. Now, the annoying thing for me is in this line, takes knight g5, let's say king g8, queen takes g4. I'm wondering what happens if my opponent plays f6. Right? f6. And if my knight has to move, then e5 will hit my queen, and it'll also hit my bishop. So, like, don't really love that either. You do. We can shake it up. I could shake it up. Looking to shake up this position here as well. But bishop h7, I think we may need to be a little careful. Bishop h7, king takes. If we want to throw this move in, notice how that doesn't actually help us. Now I can't go knight g5 because my bishop's not defending it. So the only way it's going to work is if I go here, then go with the knight, then let's say the king moves. At that point, I'm down a piece. So if I take on d6, black can also take on g5. I have to be quite careful. I'm down a piece in that line. Even though I take here, I'm going to be 2 pieces for a rook. That's not good enough. So the only way this line works is takes, knight g5, king moves, and then queen takes g4. But then I have to make sure I have an answer to f6 and e5. So it's quite the calculation. The first thing is the king goes back to g8. Queen takes g4, f6. Then I would have to take on d6. And then I would have to retreat my knight. It's the only safe way to do it. Right? The only other way that black could play is maybe king g6 instead of king g8. Crazy enough, right? Queen takes g4, and then e5. Now my queen is being hit, but I have knight e6. Knight e6 is a check. I think it works. Just barely, but I think it works. And it's not the type of thing that, in my opinion, you can play lightly. So I am going to play bishop h7, but a lot of these calculations are just barely working. Just barely. And the thing is that it's like, I'm so scared sometimes to make a move like this when everything's barely working, because if it doesn't, I'm going to hate myself because I had such an obvious basic move h3 available. So I'm going to go here. King h6 is no good for many reasons, but yeah, just obviously not a move. King h8 takes, and then you're literally getting mated, so not a move either. The only 2 considerations are king g8 and king g6. Of course, this one makes sense. We have to even the score a little bit with queen takes knight. If bishop takes here, yes, black could take back, but that would benefit me because then e5 hitting my queen doesn't even hit my bishop anymore. But the problem with this, as I said, is I think queen takes g5, and then if I take the rook, you'll see black has 3 pieces, I have 1, so it'll be 2 pieces plus, yeah, 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn, which I don't really like for the rook and pawn. So I think we have to take here. And this was the moment where I was saying it was a little bit scary, because if f6 and I play knight takes e6, there's queen e7. It defends checkmate, and my knight is actually pinned to my own queen. So f6, knight e6 is very bad for me. f6, if my knight retreats, then e5 is very bad for me. Hits my queen and hits the bishop. So it's quite tough. So after f6, my move has to be bishop takes here and then retreat the knight so that I don't get hit with e5. Not the most obvious. So you just have to make sure those calculations work. My opponent played e5, which is a double attack, but the reason why I wasn't extremely scared of this is because I know my queen has at least these two squares to choose from, which will threaten checkmate. So it's not in time to play pawn takes bishop. Now, I do have to be careful. One of these is going to be better than the other. Also, once I do this, it's not completely over because bishop f5 will be a great move to stop it. So I'm trying to figure out which of those two moves I like. Instinctively, queen h5 doesn't feel correct because the bishop then goes to g6 with tempo. So I'm looking at queen h4, bishop f5 forced. Has to be the move. Then pawn takes pawn, bishop e7, and, you know, what do I do from there, basically? I don't think we need to calculate much more than that. We'll just be up a couple pawns, and that should be good enough. If we go like this, and then take, then I thought, oh, you know, bishop g6 gets thrown in, and I'm not actually sure if that benefits me or not. So that's what I'm kind of wrestling with right now. For some reason, it feels better to have my queen on this square so that later I can go back to that square. So that's really my feeling. I'm gonna play queen h4 for that reason. So I can come back here. If I'm on h5, I don't really like that. I don't like that I can't support this knight from g3. Because being on the h file here is a little bit awkward. I want to be able to play queen g3 so I'm not in like a pin. And also, once there's a bishop on f5, guess what? I'm not mating on h7. So then I start to think, why the hell is my queen even here? I want to move it to another good square. And from h5, I don't like f3 or e2, and I really like g3. Then we can make some new threats. So, and oof, my opponent does not see bishop f5. Does not see it, which is quite beneficial. Queen h4 was just a temporary move. It was, yes, going to threaten this, but the point was to bring it back to g3. So, yeah, here it doesn't make any sense to take with the queen and lose a bishop. Although after this, f6 will win the bishop anyway. I'd rather make him earn it. So we're definitely going to take like that. So he is going to win this bishop. Now, what's the best way that I can lose this piece? That's literally what I'm thinking right now. Is it taking? Is it letting him take? Is it going here? Is it going here? Right? Which way, like, benefits me the most? Because there is pawn takes here. At which point, if the pawn took back, I'm safe. If the bishop takes back, I'm safe, actually, because g5, I have this. But after this, it's going to be pawn takes on g5. So I do have to be ready for that. Yeah, bishop h6, tempting, but, you know, after bishop h6, pawn takes, queen takes, rook f7. I don't know, black still has the full center. I'm not that convinced, but I feel like I'd rather ruin the center. So I quite like this right now. And then just take back. So that's what I'm currently looking at. If the bishop has to move, I think it gets really good for me. But black has rook f5. I think it's okay. Queen d8, rook back to f8 is why that is a little bit annoying to me. But I still think that's the way to do it. So I'm gonna take here. Yeah, I have to lose a piece here no matter what, so it's just about how I want to do it. Also, after pawn takes, I could go queen d4. And then maybe take on d5. So I think I had a lot of good options there. He takes back, which is obviously a blunder. Doesn't take the piece attacking the queen. Now we can save our bishop. And I say save because g5, I can go queen g3 and pin the g-pawn. So we truly do save our piece right now. And now what's the material? It's just a queen for a bishop. So white is way ahead, and don't think there's really anything to be concerned about anymore. So I think I'll just go here. Again, I'm not seeing any reason to be bothered by g5 because I always have queen g3. And yeah, I might be interested in taking. Okay, takes here. Let's grab it with the queen. Knight c5 makes a serious threat, but I'll be able to stop it by castling and bringing a rook to the d file. Queen takes c7 is also on tap here. And it is queen for bishop, so it's a serious material advantage right now. Good move. Good move. At this point, castling kingside is safe, but I would also say that, you know, in terms of what I'm gonna do in this position, plan-wise, it's probably gonna be maybe running the h-pawn. So this might not be the best move, but I definitely like castling. I need to castle, so I knew I was gonna go one way or the other. But I'll go this way. He doesn't have a queen, so it's like I'm not getting mated. And as a general rule, like if you have some sort of imbalance and your opponent has no queen, you know, you're probably not going to get mated. So long castling, if not for the potential to get attacked or other problems, would almost always be a nice choice because it brings the rook right into the center. But for many other reasons, like king safety, we don't play this move. But if my opponent doesn't have a queen, I'm not really bothered. So I think we want to bring this knight. Thanks very much, Dill.
You're welcome.
Cheers, everyone.
I think someone else doesn't.
Moving the knight out of the way because what the heck was it doing on f3, right? It was dominated on both of those squares. Not much to do. So we brought it into the center where maybe we'll go knight f5, also cover e6. And after that bishop move, queen d6 now hits both pieces. Knight e4, we don't have to care about stuff like knight f2 because like what? I'm losing an exchange, but I'm also winning a bishop and I'm up so much material that stuff doesn't really matter. b6 is the only move to kind of stay in the game. But then I would hit him with b4 and he would have to move the piece. So queen d6 was winning a piece no matter what. So he'll get one of my rooks, but then we can see the resulting material will be queen and knight for a rook, which is very worth for me. So couple things. If I check him here, he does have to go there. Queen or king h7 would lose immediately. Knight e6, he has rook f7, which actually keeps him very well in the game, so I don't think I want to do that. Knight f5 makes the same mate threat, and again, he has rook f7. But I tell you, one of the reasons why I like the idea knight f5, rook f7, is that after I move my queen to e6, all of a sudden, I'm threatening stuff like knight d6. So, I think knight f5 is a great way to start. For that reason, rook here, we move our queen. He's in a pin, and the only way to get out of the pin is to move the king this way, which I think is moving the king kind of towards death. Yeah, so let's move the queen now. Knight d6, big threat. So again, you can grab one of my rooks, but knight d6 is coming as the very next move. And here we actually have a checkmate, but I sort of need to force him to allow me to do it. So knight e7, king h7, queen h3 is mate. But I can't play queen h3. So I just need to move a rook so that his knight will take one of my rooks, and then I can deliver the mate. So if I do this one, maybe he'd throw in a check or something random. So let's use this rook. He'll take my rook, and then we can deliver this checkmate. He can't take the knight because it's pinned. And no matter which king move he does, queen h3 will be mate. So it'd be hard to see this not working out. And we can grab this anytime, but obviously we set this up so that knight e7 would force a king move, and queen h3 is a nice pattern to know, where the knight takes away the escape squares. That knight was covering that square earlier, so not good enough. And this will be mate, no matter what. It's a cute checkmate pattern. I don't mind throwing in a cheeky kick KO for that. Just a cheeky one. Let's check the game review on that one. Wow. Did they change the game review? They did, right? Because this looks like this looks like a lot of white advantage. So it used to be, I think, like fully black as the background, and then it would like shift to one side or the other. But now it's like half of it's black, half of it's white, and then it sort of takes up more space than the other. So interesting. Okay. Getting used to that. I think it looks worse, if I had to be honest, but most changes look worse. Let's start with that. Everything looks worse when it's new. Okay, so yeah, like I said, guys, I would have gone knight c3, but I just think e6 is so inviting for a regular London. So I took my opportunity there. And this is, I think it's a really nice feeling, an empowering feeling when you feel comfortable enough in the opening to see what your opponent's doing and then decide yourself how to handle it, rather than always be doing the exact same thing. So I'm definitely fortunate that I was able to make that decision. Knight g4, not great. And so the interesting thing about this is that if you look at, and this is exactly what I was getting at earlier, if you look at this position, bishop h7 is not, it's not on here, right? There's a lot of good moves that can be played here. It's not really one of them. Bishop h7. It's a fine move. It's not bad, and you can see here that I'm going to be maintaining an edge. Like white's better. But I knew for a fact that this would not be a serious edge. And the line that black should be playing is the one that we looked at. f6. And I was saying knight takes e6 basically is worse after this. So bishop takes here. Black will take with the pawn. Yes, we retreat our knight. We're happy we won a pawn, but black has achieved something as well. e5, this pawn structure is great against the knight. This knight can't move. Bishop is going to be super strong on the light squares. So this position is not crushing. It's good, but it's not crushing. So I don't know if bishop h7 is the right move. It feels like a great move, and I sort of stand by it, but note that there are a lot of tremendous moves here. H3, I was talking about, this is also a very good move. You can see the eval is pretty much +1. The knight has to go back, and now I've got a free c3 move, a free h3 move. I'm enjoying myself here. So this move felt like a good move, bishop h7, but I knew it wasn't crushing. He played e5, which is not the best, and like I was saying, it's so hard for me to decide between these two moves. They feel almost identical, but ultimately I went with queen h4 because I liked the move queen g3 after. But very, very, very hard to choose. He needs to play bishop to f5, and he didn't. That would have been a big move to find, but now I think this is just fairly easy. This is incredible. Bishop h6 is best. Bishop h6 is best. Can you imagine? So what's the situation here? Someone want to enlighten me? No, but at this point, guys, you guys were saying bishop h6. Remember? Because I said, how should we lose our bishop here? And you guys said bishop h6. But at this point, we're not losing the bishop. So can someone tell me why we opt to lose it? Someone tell me why the best move is losing the bishop when we can choose not to lose the bishop? Huh? What's going on here? It's ridiculous. Bishop h6. And just takes? It's crazy. What? I mean, that's wild. I don't buy that for a second. Oh, yeah, you guys had this idea? McNaster, you saw this one? Real Team Money, you were calculating this line, were you? Mattis, was this in your list of candidate moves for the position? What the hell am I supposed to do with this? This is ridiculous. You saw it and didn't want to ruin it for me. Well, Dr. Lord, this is what I'm saying. I played bishop here. And of course, the engine is not going to say g5 because, as we saw, I mean, not only do I have queen g3, but, you know, I could sack. There are many good things here. g5 is not it. The engine is telling me knight c6, and white's position with a queen for a bishop here, because I can take this, is worse than white's position with a queen for two bishops here. What? The math isn't mathing. I do not understand. I'll tell you that right now. All right. Well, nevertheless, we played bishop f4. Blunder, I guess. Knight d7, knight f3, and I think at this point it was pretty much over. Bishop d7 was, I think, the last mistake. Knight f5, and now queen e6 is decisive. Rook f8 is pretty much a move that loses the game immediately. And notice the difference between rook df1 and rook hf1. Big difference. They're both going to win the game, obviously, but not allowing knight d3, I think is relevant. So rook hf1, it's nice. And it's a nice mating pattern. Does anyone know what this mating pattern is called? It has a name. Anyone know?